If you're watching this video right now, you've probably figured out that you can put less than 20% down when buying your first home. But the question you're probably asking yourself is, should you? So on today's video, I've partnered up with my friends over at moneyunder30.com to help you answer the question, should you put less money down on your home, what the pros and cons of doing that is, and what we think you should be doing with those savings as well. Coming up. Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name's Caton. I'm a loan officer from San Diego, California, and on this channel, I help people just like you learn how to navigate the mortgage process and buy your first home. Now, if at any point I bring you some value, it would mean the world to me if you just hit the like button and hit subscribe if you want to stay up to date with all my latest content to help you buy a home this year. So back to the main question, is putting 20% down on a home really necessary, especially in 2022? Now, if you don't already know, there are some great loan options that are going to let you buy a home with less than 20% down. For example, conventional Fannie and Freddie loans let you get into a home with as little as 3 to 5% down. FHA has, of course, their 3.5% down. And VA and USDA loans allow you to buy a home with as little as 0% down. And while it is great that you have an option to buy that home with that little out of pocket, you really want to be considering your finances and figuring it out if it's going to be a good idea for you. So let's really start out by weighing the pros and cons of actually putting 20% down, or rather putting less than 20% down. All right, let's start with the pros. Number one, the biggest one I can think of is the fact that when you're buying a home, down payment isn't the only thing that you have to be worried about. Especially in a competitive market like we have right now, most sellers aren't going to be giving any credits out to buyers to help them cover their closing costs. And nationally, on average, your closing costs are going to be anywhere between 2 to 3% of the purchase price of the home that you're buying. On a $500,000 home, that's as much as $10,000 to $15,000 extra that you have to come up with on top of your down payment. So by putting less money down on your home, that keeps that other money set aside for closing costs, which may help you when you're creating a more competitive offer. As a bonus, it can also help you out if there's a gap in your appraisal. For example, if you're under contract for $500, but the appraisal comes back at $490, you're gonna have to come up with that $10,000 difference. So having that extra cash set aside by putting a lower down payment means that you might be able to shore up that gap a lot better. Now, another pro is by putting less money down on your home, that it basically means less risk for you as a homeowner. You see, regardless if you're putting 5% down or 20% down on a $500,000 home, that home's still gonna be worth the exact same amount. The only difference is you're not gonna be able to touch that money unless you sell the home or if you have to refinance. So in the event of an emergency, you'll actually have that cash available to you in your bank instead of having it sunk into your home where you would have to go through some extra steps in order to access that money. And on that note, one of the best reasons to not put so much money down is that leaves more money and capital for you to make other investments. Although real estate is appreciating at a crazy rate right now, you might want to keep that money and your whole portfolio really diversified into different investments. Maybe it's going to be in stocks, bonds, the S&P 500, crypto, a new NFT, whatever it is. If you want to have that money available for other purchases, for other investments, putting less money down keeps more of that money in your pocket. Now, while there are a lot of benefits cash-wise to putting less money down, I would be remiss to say that there aren't some cons as well. Now, the obvious one is the fact that by putting less money down, you're financing a higher loan amount. And with a higher loan amount, of course, logically comes a higher payment than if you were to put 20% down. Now, depending on how much home you're financing, this could translate to hundreds of dollars more in your payment, which could really move the needle for you based on how you're trying to qualify for a mortgage. And a higher payment also could put a bigger dent to your budget, so it's really something that you have to think about. Additionally, for any mortgage that isn't a VA loan, you're most likely going to be having to pay some sort of private mortgage insurance or mortgage insurance premium in order to utilize a less than 20% down option. Now, while I've talked about why PMI is actually leverage and it's actually not that bad of a thing, you can check that video out. I'll save that for another time. But essentially, for a lot of people, PMI could be $100, $200 a month extra on their mortgage payment that they might not be able to afford. And lastly, another con of putting less money down is some sellers might look at your offer as a not as competitive offer. Now, of course, depending on how good your real estate agent and your lender are explaining your offer to a seller, some sellers might look at a 5% down and a 20% down loan and think to themselves, well, this one's putting more percent down, they have more skin in the game, they've got a little bit more cash out of pocket, this might be a safer route for me. Now, this isn't a blanket statement. I'm not saying that sellers will absolutely deny any offer with less than 20% down. Majority of my buyers from last year put way less than 20% down. I think the average down payment for them was somewhere around 8 to 7%. So it's not a perfect system, but it is something that you might want to be aware of. So when you're weighing the pros and cons of putting 20% down or putting less than 20% down, in my case, I put 5% down on my condo, you really want to kind of look at your overall finances. Can your income support that slightly higher payment when putting less down? Or do you really need to be coming up with that extra cash, that 20% down, in order to make the home fit into your budget? All right, so the big question, when are some times that you absolutely should put less than 20% down? Well, the number one time that you want to put less than 20% down is when you're trying to conserve cash. A lot of home buyers are coming out and they don't really have the cash to put 20% down in the first place. So if that's all you've got to put down, that's obviously a reason where you're going to be wanting to put less than 20% down so you could break the cycle of renting and start owning and investing in real estate. A lot of the time, the biggest pitfall that I come across with home buyers is the fact that they're waiting to save up for a big down payment when they could have just put as little as 3 to 5% down now and started owning right away. This is one of the biggest pitfalls I see a lot of home buyers fall into. For example, here in San Diego, in 2018, the average price of a single family home was around $522,000. Today, that's jumped up almost $300,000 more. The average price is tracking around $800,000 and is slated to hit over $1 million within the next few years. So home buyers who would have waited and taken several years to save up for that 20% down are realizing that the amount that they're saving and the rate that they're saving at is getting outpaced by inflation and getting outpaced by the rate that the market is appreciating. And that leads me to my second time that you should put less than 20% down is in an appreciating market. Even if you have that 20% down available, it still might make more sense to put less money down because your home is going to grow in equity a lot faster. So even if you're paying PMI by putting less than 20% down, in an appreciating market, you might be able to remove that PMI a lot faster. Now, the third time that you should buy a home with less than 20% down is if you can comfortably afford the payment. If you're buying a home that's well below your monthly payment budget and you can realistically afford that payment, it might make more sense to go ahead and put less than 20% down. Like I said, in an appreciating market especially, you'll be able to take advantage of those equity gains. It's really not going to affect your payment at the end of the day because it's going to be within your budget. So if you're well below your means when you're buying your home, sure, put less than 20% down. It's really not going to move the needle for you. And lastly, if you're in a situation where you absolutely need to be owning a home right away, if you have an emergency situation where you need to, then definitely take advantage of the fact that you can buy a home with less than 20% down. Now, probably the best time to put less than 20% down is in situations that are emergencies where you absolutely need to buy a house right now and you don't have the cash available, or even if you do, you probably want to keep that cash available for other things in that kind of situation. Ultimately, it's going to come down to your individual finances. There's a reason why personal finances are, of course, personal. Everyone's is a little bit different. Everyone's situation is a little bit different. So it depends. However, I hope this video gives you the perspective that you need to make that educated decision and weigh realistically those pros and cons against the kind of situation that you're in. Now, in my opinion, in 2022, where we've got rising interest rates and real estate prices rising just as quickly, I think it still makes perfect sense to put less than 20% down if you can afford to. The fact is, while interest rates are rising, they are still near historic lows. Even in just the last 5 years, these rates that we have in the 3s are still fantastic interest rates, and you should definitely take advantage of it instead of renting. Especially with the cost of rent slated to increase anywhere from 15 to 20% year over year in the coming years, and home prices probably about to do the same, it makes a lot of sense that you would probably want to stop renting, get into a home right away, and not have to worry about that. But hey, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know what you did for your home if you've bought a home, and if you're planning on buying a home, let me know what you're planning on doing as far as your down payment. So I hope this video gave you some perspective, and I hope it answered a lot of the questions that you had when you clicked on this video. And if you have any more questions about your personal home buying journey, make sure you leave them down in the comment section down below. And if you're buying a home in California, I'd love to help you out. Reach out, I'll leave a link into the bio. Now, if you are buying a home this year, here's a few more videos that I think you're going to like that are going to help you along your home buying journey. Once again, if you learned something new, make sure you leave a like, hit subscribe so you can stay up to date with all of my latest home buying content. And if you got any questions, leave them in the comments below. Until next time, see ya.